Okay, as you can see now, look, one high elf is actually in their front arc. Actually, and their 90-degree front arc. All of them are, because you can see my laser pointer, the whole unit. So now, as far as charging, these guys can continue the rest of their move straight forward, which is 6 inches, which, as you can see, 6 inches is enough to bring them into contact with the high elves. So these guys would move straight. They would clip. I'm sorry, clip is a bad word in this game. They would touch here. Okay. Then you get a free move. Basically what you do is the attacker lines up to the defender. So you would do this, and that way you're maximizing models. You want to, in close combat, you want to always maximize models. Otherwise that would be an unfair advantage if it ended up where they touched, because those 2 Saurus warriors would destroy those 3 high elf archers. They'll probably win anyways, but at least when you maximize, everybody gets to fight. And unlike 40K, the guys that charge don't get an extra attack. In fantasy, the guys that charge, and this is what makes movement so huge, is the guys that get off the charge regardless of their initiative. Let me say that again. Regardless of their initiative, get to strike first. So even though the Saurus warriors have a lower initiative, they're going before the high elves. So it's not looking good for the high elves. Okay, we're going to talk about archers. I mean, not archers, but we're going to talk about the turn move. The turn, for 25% of your move, that's in this case, would be 1.25 inches, because elves have a move of 5. And basically, every guy in this unit would turn to face the same direction, and then you'd move. Let's say we move these guys 2.5 inches. So that's 3.75 inches out of their 5. And then, one thing you can do is turn them all to face forward again. So basically what that allows the high elves to do is move or shift 2.5 inches and still face forward. This is helpful to get out of a charge or any other kind of maneuver. Maybe open up. There might be some kind of unit behind it that wants access. Get another tactic I use with the high elves, and actually works for all bowmen. If these guys are fixing to be charged by, say, the Saurus warriors, and you think he's might get you by, you know, 1 inch or so, you can also do the 180-degree turn, which is only also 1/4 of your move, not half. A lot of people think, oh, it's 180, so it's half your move. No, it's 1/4. So basically, these guys could back up 2.5 inches and then face towards me. I call it the curly shuffle. Basically, it's a delaying tactic that keeps your archers backing up, where the guys, foot soldiers or guys with movement of 4 or something, that slowly can pursue, trying to get into charge range, and these guys, meanwhile, get to keep on shooting them. So it helps keep your archers alive a little bit longer. One thing to note that I mentioned about march moves, when you do the turn, you cannot do march moves, so you just basically do it off your standard movement. You notice the little red light? That's my laser track. I use that as my pointer to show arcs and stuff like that for 40K and for fantasy. So, and then there's another move that's called a reform. Basically, reform lets you you can be facing any direction. Say these guys are somehow in your back. You can face any direction, but it costs you your entire move, and you can do nothing else, including shooting. So you just reform to face them, and at this time you can change the ranks. If you wanted to go 7 wide, 8 wide, down to 5 wide, but it's in your rule book. Reform, I don't use it that often because usually I can do it with what I need to do with turns and alright, let's suppose these guys were shadow warriors, which they're not, but they're a skirmishing unit. What does that mean? Well, skirmishing unit is like a 40, all the units in 40K. It has 360-degree movement, and it can also march moves. So that is huge when you consider the, you know, the circle around what they can see and what they can do. And then flyers are also, they move as a skirmisher. So they too have a 360-degree, moving at 20. Flyers are pretty impressive. This is a flying unit, I'm sorry. Then you got what's called monsters. Anything on a 40mm, 50mm base moves as a monster when it's a single. Ogres are on 40s, but they can be ranked up, so they don't really count. But a single monster, you know how we were using the tape measure to pivot? Well, sorry, about lost control. Well, you don't have to use the tape measure when you move a monster. It doesn't pay to wheel. It can wheel for free, basically. It still only has its 90-degree arc, but it wheels for free, and as often as it wants. There is no maximum to the number of wheels you can do in a turn. Just the more wheels you do, the harder, you know, it sucks up how far you can move, and thus making it harder for you to get into contact with your enemy. So, alright, that's basically movement. Now we're going to talk about the actual movement phase. The movement phase is broken up into 5 steps. The first step is declare charges. That's where you check, you know, to see if you got that your front of your unit has your enemy in sight. And then you got rallying fleeing troops. I gave you some bad info. I thought rallying, I don't know if I said that or not, but you rally in the movement phase, not the start of turn phase. Anyways, and then you got so any troops that rally, they're pretty much done. You know, they can't do much. They get to reform, so your rallying troops get to face in any direction and with the rank setup that they want. So that, you know, is good. Rallying troops rally a lot more in Warhammer than they do in 40K for some reason. We'll talk about that later too. Okay, and then you got the compulsory move. Compulsory moves are stuff like, say a unit goes stupidity, that's in the rule book. If you fail your leadership and they go stupid, they move forward. During the compulsory moves, that's where units move that are not in your control. Goblin Fanatics, they do a random movement. Units that are frenzied, they, you know, charge out of your control. So that's what happens during the compulsory move. And then you move your chargers, the guys. You know, you declared your charge, like the Source Warriors, and they were going to charge the high elves. Well, this is when they would actually move, is during the move chargers. And one thing to note that's important, and if you play a few games of fantasy, you'll understand, when you declare multiple charges, i.e. more than one per turn, it matters in which order you declare them. Because because you will move these in the order that you declared them. So I've had units, I've made mistakes where I had a Stegodon charge a unit and it blocked me from having my other unit charge, my Source Warriors charge that same unit. So it matters which ones charge first, especially when you hit skirmishers, because when skirmishers are charged, they line up to the unit that hits them first. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Anyways, and then the last part of the movement phase is the remaining moves. Remaining moves is the guys that aren't charging. This is where you can just march, move everybody else, reposition. This is adjust your battle lines. This is where you do, you know, any and everything that wasn't related to the charges or the compulsory moves or, you know, rallying of fleeing troops.